Hello there, people of the internet. Firearms laws here inside the United States are oftentimes made up by people who do not necessarily understand firearms, and I know that I really dislike the situation that we find ourselves in, politically speaking, because we are absolutely on our back foot trying to take a swing forward. So if you're like me and you're concerned about the state of how things are going to go, then subscribe to the channel because you are among the right crowd. But whenever it comes to the determination of particular firearms laws, there's certain clauses in U.S. law that determines whether or not something is or is not a firearm, or if it is exempt to being considered a firearm and classifies instead as an antique rifle. I've made videos about this particular topic before, antique rifles, and the idea goes that if it is made before 1899 or before 1900, sometime around the turn of the century, if it is made before that particular time period, then it is classified as an antique rifle. And so even though, well, antique firearm doesn't necessarily have to be a rifle, but even though it could be a modern style bolt action firearm that takes a cartridge, you still have the option, because it's an antique firearm, you still have the option to not have that sent through an FFL unless your state states otherwise. Like I'm sure California does not allow this, but by federal law, you do not need to go through an FFL for an antique firearm because it's considered a collectible, and you can have it sent right to your door. You don't need a license, you don't need anything, and that's one of the weird, quirky things about United States law. You don't need a license to be able to buy these firearms just based off of the year that they are made. Hold on, I'm sure I have an example here. Yeah, my Steyr 8890 right here, chambered in 8x50. This is a bolt-action rifle. It takes 8x50 Mannlicher cartridges. That's an 8mm round that goes down range. I think that they travel like 2,400 or so feet per second. 200 plus grain projectiles, can't quite remember the weight, but it's a full power rifle cartridge. This is, for all intents and purposes, a full power rifle. Now granted, there's some caveats, like originally this was a smokeless powder design, so full power 8x50 ammunition is not necessarily something that you want to do, but that's a different topic. That's just this particular rifle's design. But this right here is chambered in 8x50, which is a very potent full power rifle cartridge, and I just had this sent right to my door. I do not have any licenses whatsoever, but because that right there was made in 1888 or sometime around that time period, because that was made before that 1899 time point, it classifies as an antique, and so that right there gets shipped right to my door. I don't have to deal with any sort of FFLs. Or if you have, actually, this is a really awesome example. This is not an antique. I actually don't have an antique. But a lot of your Mauser rifles came out and were designed before that 1899 time period. This right here is an 1898 rifle. If I had myself one of the original 1898 Mausers, then that would classify as an antique rifle. Or the M96s, if you get one made before that 1899 time period, or any of the 1895s or 1893s or 1891 patterns, as long as they're manufactured before that time period, they technically classify as an antique rifle. Then you can have them sent right to your door. Now, a lot of those classifications have to be determined based off of serial numbers and whatnot, but if it's made before that time period, then you can have that same style of rifle just sent right to your door. You don't have to worry about licenses or paperwork or anything like that. You just, hey, I'm buying this rifle. All right, cool. We're going to send it right to your house. Enjoy your new rifle. Now, what really gets to me about that law, I really wish that we didn't base off of age and we based off of the design, like the time period of design. Because if I had, hypothetically speaking, this is not actually the case, but let's say I had a rifle that was made in like 1895, right? And it was this rifle right here. And then I had another rifle that was identical in functionality and capability, but this one was made in 1901. This rifle being made in 1901, despite the fact it is essentially identical to the one that was made 6 years before, this one would have to go through an FFL because it would not classify as an antique rifle. That's just one of those little things that really gets to me. I really do wish that that they base them off of design or design from the time periods that they were designed, and not off of actual manufacturing dates. Because boy, oh boy, that would be great. And they actually do sort of do that with non-cartridge firing firearms. I don't have any right here, but I do have this 1886 Lebel, which is the first non-black powder firearm. But black powder firearms that do not take cartridges, ones that are like muzzle loaders and things like that, those still classify as antiques because of their design. That's why there's modern day muzzle loaders that you can buy without needing to worry about an FFL. Get yourself a black powder cap and ball revolver, or a black powder cap and a percussion cap musket, or a flintlock system, or something like that. Something that does not take a physical cartridge to where you have to actually use it as a muzzleloader. Those right there classify as antiques based off design and not off of year. That's why we can still do modern day muzzleloaders and not having to worry about any sort of FFL transfer fees or anything like that, because by technical law they don't classify as a firearm. I'm pretty sure that they classify as an antique design. I wish that we did that with the antique designs that we literally classify as antiques. I mean, if I ever found myself in a situation where I could make that happen, that's absolutely what I would make happen. But these right here are some examples of some things that you can just go out and get, and you don't have to worry about licensing or transfers or anything like that. You want a revolver, cap and ball revolver, there you go. I know that 36 caliber and 44 caliber are the most popular ones, and I do know that you can get conversion cylinders to take modern ammunition to put through your cap and ball revolver. I know that there's, for like a 44, that takes a 4.57 diameter projectile, or a 4.54, one of those two. Those right there have conversion cylinders for 45 long Colt and 45 ACP, which is a 4.52 diameter, but it's designing a way to take modern cartridges. So you could go out and get yourself this antique style black powder cap and ball revolver, have that shipped to your door, and then get yourself a conversion cylinder and not have to worry about any sort of FFL or transfer fee or any sort of anything like that. You don't have to send it to a gun store, then have to drive to the gun store to go pick it up. Things like that you could just have shipped right to your door. U.S. law has always been one of those things that is a little on the unusual side. Obviously designed by people who do not understand firearms, and a lot of these people who don't understand firearms just kind of make a lot of assumptions based off of firearms, and we end up with laws that make absolutely no sense. Like, if I had a Mauser from 1898, then that would be fine. Antique, ship it right to your door. But if I had the same exact design and pattern of rifle from 1901, 2 or 3 years later, then it's no longer an antique because of that manufacturer date. So I have to have that shipped to an FFL. Then I have to do the background check and the transfer fees and paperwork, and it's a whole process to be able to get one of those rifles, despite the fact it is literally identical to the antique rifle that I could have sent right to my house. It's a stupid setup, and that's just something that happens when you're dealing with the types of politicians that we're currently dealing with. And this has been going on for a long time. I think it was the 1930s, whenever the 1930s came out, that we started to see firearms legislation like what we started to see. And we started to see the very beginnings of gun control that has just been a complete downward slope into what it is that we're currently dealing with nowadays. And they're still trying to strip more and more and more away of our rights and capabilities. I'm pretty sure that in the 60s or before the 60s, or so sometime in the mid-60s, I think it was 68 if memory serves me correctly, you could just have these sent right to your house, and you did not have to deal with any sort of licensing or FFL or paperwork or background checks or anything like that. You just go out and get yourself one of these. You could get yourself the modern stuff as well. I think I've said my 2 cents here for this particular video. This is going to turn into a rant if I keep going, so I'm just going to say thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate your time. Hopefully you learned something in this video. Hopefully this gets some people thinking, and hopefully I said enough to constitute as doing my due diligence for the day. Thanks for watching. Appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below is linked to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off. Have yourself a fantastic day. I will see you guys on the next episode.
Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. The poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.